Hi guys, it's Elliot from tutorialedge.net, and in this tutorial we're going to be taking an in-depth look at threads in Python. We're going to start by covering what they consist of, we'll then touch upon how you can define your own simple threads, and then finally we're going to look at all the ways that you can work with these simple threads within a simple Python program. You can find the full text version of this tutorial at tutorialedge.net, and I'm going to be leaving a link to this tutorial in the description below. So before we get started, it's important to understand what threads actually are. So they are just ordered streams of instructions, i.e. do this 5 times and then terminate. These can be scheduled to run by the operating system and can be run in either parallel fashion across multiple cores or concurrently across a single core. Now these threads typically live within a parent process and they consist of 4 things. So a program counter, a stack, a set of registers and an identifier. Now these threads within an operating system are typically able to interact with shared resources, so shared bits of memory, and communication between these multiple threads is possible. So as they are able to share resources such as memory, they are also able to modify things in a concurrent or even parallel fashion. However, it's important to note that if you do not put in place appropriate guards and checks within your code, you may start to see things called race conditions start to cause problems within your code bases. Now, there's also 2 distinct types of threads, and these are typically your user level threads, which are the ones we actively play with and create within our Python programs, and also the kernel level threads, which are very low level threads that act on behalf of the operating system. So when people typically talk about multi-threaded processors, they're typically referring to a processor that can run multiple threads simultaneously or concurrently. These would typically have 2 or more threads actively competing for execution time within a single core. When one thread gives up or stops, the processing core then schedules another thread to start. It context switches between these threads very, very quickly and gives the impression that the computer is running these things in parallel when in fact it's actually just running these concurrently. So before we can start to actively work with threads, we need to know how we can define one. So let's take a look at the thread class within the threading module. So if we look at the constructor function, we can see that it takes in 5 distinct parameters. Now the key ones to note are the target and the name parameter. So with the target, we pass in the function that we wish the thread to run, and with the name, we can actually name our threads, which is quite useful if you're doing things like logging and debugging. Now that we know that, we can start to create a really simple threaded Python program. So we'll start by importing the threading module, and we're then going to define the function that we're going to pass into our thread. So def my task, print hello world, and we're also going to print out the current thread. And to do that, we're going to do threading.current thread. Now, if we called this within our main task like this, my task, you'll see that Python 3.6 threads.py, it prints out as main thread, but let's create a second child thread. So my thread equals threading.thread, and the target will equal my task. And to start our new thread, we simply do my thread.start. And if we run this again, you'll see that it runs in a child thread and not the main thread like we'd seen before. So that's all there really is to it. Within this tutorial, we sort of looked at what threads are and how you can create and start your own threads. So it's a nice simple tutorial just to get you up and running. Now, this tutorial is just part of a series that I'm doing on concurrency in Python. If you found it useful and you would like to learn more about concurrency in Python and multi-threading in Python in general, then please feel free to subscribe to my channel. And if you want to support the channel, then leave a like in the video. Cheers.